Hello, greetings, and salutations. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travel. Welcome to this week's episode. This is going to be an interesting episode for me to record. Um, I'm a, this is probably going to be one of the most uncomfortable episodes for me to record, and I'll tell you why. Not that I don't mind doing it, but just the circumstances that are surrounding this. So, this episode is going to be my experience with the Tennessee Volunteers. I literally just got home from this trip. Today is Sunday. I went and saw their game yesterday on Saturday. I drove down there, stayed at a hotel, caught the game, drove back today, came home, and immediately recording this podcast. I've never done that before. Even even the podcast I had with my California trip, it was a little bit of time because I recorded. I usually try to record one a week, and each one of those was a little bit of time until I recorded it. Um, Same with when I went to Tampa Bay, went on the cruise. I had recorded the things that were part of that trip, but it wasn't immediate. It was a little bit of time. This is the first time I'm going to record something immediately. And I don't even have notes. Usually I write down notes, try to remember everything. I don't have that. I do have some stuff pulled up to kind of jog my memory on the website, which I usually try to pull up just so I can kind of jog my memory a little bit. So I've got that at least, but no notes. I'm going to be doing this kind of completely uh, extemporaneously, I guess you could say, off the cuff, and hopefully it sounds okay. And one of the biggest reasons that I'm uncomfortable, aside from not having notes, is I haven't taken a shower yet. Not that I am dirty or smell or anything like that, but I'll let you in a little bit about myself. Let you know something about myself. Um, that you may or may not know of me personally. But I can be kind of a little bit of a germophobic, I guess you could say. Many years ago, when I was like 19 or 20, it started with like being very picky with my hands, the cleanliness of my hands, constantly washing them all the time or at least sanitizing them. And then, as most people know, COVID just kind of always, it just heightened everything. So during COVID, I don't know if you did this or not, but like you ever have stuff come in your home, like groceries, and you're sanitizing everything, wiping them down, or if you went into a public place, you came home, took off all your clothes, and hopped in the shower. Well, I mentally have never been able to break that. I still do that, and so I just got back from a trip, and instead of going into the shower, which I normally would do, again, not that I've been rolling in the mud or anything like that, but just mentally, that's what I always feel like I do if I step into a public place. Um, I do that before I sit down on my furniture or touch anything. So, me being here at my desk, sitting down here, and everything is very uncomfortable for me right now because in my mind, I feel like I'm getting everything dirty, which I'm going to sanitize all of this after I'm done with the podcast and I take a shower and all that. But I wanted to talk about the trip right away since it's fresh in my mind. So let's get into it a little bit. Actually, before we get into it, just a little housekeeping to start off. You can reach out to me if you're looking to go to a game like myself or go on a cruise, which is my specialty, or some other type of vacation. You can reach out to me in a couple ways. I do have social media that I'm on, Facebook and Instagram. Both of them are the same names, Jay's Paradise Travels. There's no apostrophe in the J's, it's just Jays. Jay's Paradise Travels. You can reach out to me that way. Or if you want to email me, my email is jay dot paradise at gmail.com. Again, that's jay dot paradise at gmail.com. So feel free to reach out to me in one of those aspects, and I'll be happy to set you up with the trip. Okay, so let's start. Let's talk about this trip. It was just one game that I went and saw, the Tennessee Volunteers, and this was a game that I had looked at the schedule not that long ago, and my goal is to try to get at least three college games a year. So far I've done two. I saw Stanford and Cal last month, and I wanted to do one more. But I also usually I have a spreadsheet and college teams and pro teams that are in the same vicinity. I like to try to bundle them if I can. But there are a few out there that I need to get to that I guess you could say are more standalone in a way. For instance, the Virginia Cavaliers. I need to go see them, but there's not really an NFL team that I would pair that necessarily with. The Nebraska Cornhuskers, they don't have a pro team in Nebraska, things like that. So now Tennessee does have the Tennessee Titans, which I've not seen yet, but that's in Nashville, and a team that's also in Nashville are the Vanderbilt Commodores. So more than likely, I'm going to pair those two up. So to me, Tennessee was a little bit of a standalone team, and uh, and so I was kind of eyeballing it. Michigan was on the road this week, so I didn't have to work a Michigan game. Obviously, that's going to affect being able to go see a game since a good 8 Saturdays of the fall are taken up by Michigan games. Um, so I was looking at the schedule, saw this game, and I had asked a couple friends. They couldn't really make it. The tickets were a little pricier than I think than maybe some were comfortable with, which I understood. It was a little even more pricey than I was really wanting to pay for it, but did it nonetheless because this is my hobby, and it's something you love and are passionate about doing. You put the time and money into it. If it was something like a jazz concert, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't spend the money on it or go that far for that. Nothing against jazz, just not my thing, right? I'm not passionate about it. This is something I am willing to spend my money and time on. I didn't really, so I didn't get to go with anybody. My dad may have come, but he's in Greece at the moment right now on a vacation that I set up for him. He goes a couple times a year and usually around this time. So it was just me. Um, and my wife has gone with me before in the past when we were first married. She came on a lot, but I think just going, seeing a game, and coming back is kind of a little bit much for her. If we're in and around an area and she's there with us, like maybe before or after a cruise, she'll go. But to just come with me to go to a game and come back, not really doing that anymore, like we used to together. So and that's fine. So it's just me. I drove down there from here to Detroit. Down there, the hotel I stayed at was probably around a 7 hour drive away, and uh, I stopped for gas, stopped for lunch. It was a Saturday game that wasn't now with college football. So much of the time, the TV networks have the control over when these games are played. And while I was eyeballing this weeks ago, I didn't know what time it was going to be. What time is this thing going to start? Do I need to go Friday night, stay the night, an extra night? Can I go on Saturday? I don't know. Well, anyways, I decided that regardless, it was going to be just a one night occasion. I'm going to drive in on Saturday, drive home on Sunday. That I can do that drive. I've come to find out that I think 10 hours is a little much for me. In other podcasts, I'll talk about some games that I've gone to that I did have to do a 10-hour drive, and I struggled with that. I think 8 would probably be I'm good with. This was around 7 to 8 if you include the stops, and I was okay. Um, but yeah, I think more than that, it would be a little bit more difficult for me. Regardless of what time this was going to start, I was going to decided to go Saturday, come back Sunday. Had it been a noon kickoff game, I would have had to leave at like 2 or 3 in the morning to get there on time. But it turned out that it actually ended up being a night game, which gave me an opportunity to get a good night's rest on Friday night, sleep into my normal time, which I'm up early anyway. So I think I got up probably around 5. I'm always up so early anyway. Do it, do a few things, get ready, get back, ready to go and head on out. And it's basically a straight shot down 75, which is 75 is only a few minutes from where I live, I-75, and I-75 goes basically from Michigan down straight to Florida. You can take the whole thing right down if you want. Um, and on along the way, it's kind of cool to see a couple stadiums, one of which I've been to for a game, another which I've not. One of them is Bowling Green, which I've gone to a game on that. Uh, and it's cool. And that's one of the things growing up, whenever I passed the stadium, I always thought that was kind of cool. It's part of what inspired this hobby of mine. Got to see them and got to looked at it. It's been there, which is nice. And then the other one is the Cincinnati Bengals, which right as you're passing Cincinnati, getting out of Ohio and into Kentucky, you go over a bridge. There it is, right there next to it. I've seen it multiple times now, just never been to a game to it yet. On the bucket list, hopefully I'll get to go there one day soon. got to see a couple stadiums on the way. That's always nice. And what else? It was just myself. I was listening to a lot of podcasts on the way down. Um, on the way home today, I was listening to music. And all the podcasts were yesterday. Pretty much all today was music. And going there, it was kind of funny. Like when I'm out of town, I like to eat something more locally, not something that I have here. And I was needing to get something to eat, and I saw a barbecue place that had like a drive-through in it. And I thought, okay, that sounds cool. We don't, whatever it was, whatever the name was, we don't have it here in Michigan. I thought, all right, let me go there. So I go in there. Well, as I'm turning off, there's no signs telling you which way to go for the barbecue place. You see the signs on the highway, but once you get on, you need, an arrow or something. None of that. I don't know. And it was very crowded, a lot of traffic. So let me just turn right. I turn right. Still kind of crowded, can't see it. So I turn off to get out of the way, and there's an Arby's. I'm like, well, I don't feel like, searching for this place. So let me just eat Arby's. Not that I like Arby's, but I have Arby's here. I'm out of town. If I get a chance to, I want to try something that I don't have here. But I didn't have time or the patience to wait for it. I just got Arby's. Got a Greek gyro. I like their gyros. Surprisingly, they've got good gyros, if you can believe that. Got that, ate it up, went about my merry little way. As I'm leaving Arby's, heading back towards the highway, I look, and right next to Arby's was that barbecue place. So I'm like, oh, come on. Are you kidding me? How did I miss that? How did I not see that? Oh, well, such is life. Head on over there. Driving down was really smooth, good weather, good traffic. Only once, I think, around Ohio area, maybe around Dayton. I think there was like a traffic jam that was going on, and the GPS was able to kind of lead me around it and save me some time, and I avoided the traffic altogether because I can't stand being in traffic, at all. Coming home today, I got caught in a little bit of traffic. I think it was in Ohio again. I don't think it was Dayton, and it was just basically like road work, and they had all the cones out. No, I didn't see anyone working, which frustrates me to no end. We have that a lot here in Michigan. All these cones, millions of cones, all this stuff set up, narrows it down to one or two lanes. I see nobody working. Like, I feel like all these orange cones, because I see like millions of them. They must rent out like a football stadium and just store them all in there, every season until it's summertime. They can start working on it again. That's a okay. I'd be going off on a rant on that one. That's not what this podcast for. Anyways, going down there, uh, good weather, good traffic. Got there fairly early. I checked into the hotel. It was a Baymont by Wyndham, a similar, the exact same kind of hotel that I stayed in San Francisco. That has a breakfast. It's not too expensive, so I was kind of excited about that. Um, I will say, friendly staff. This one wasn't the best Baymont out there in the world. Uh, could have been a little cleaner, had a little bit of an odd smell in the room. I mean, old school when it seemed like when it came to like the TV. Well, no, I mean the TV was like a flat screen, but just the connection to it didn't seem like it was high def. Not that that's the most important thing in the world, but you kind of used to that. The breakfast, it was a little bit more limited. They had two cereals, they had Raisin Bran and Fruit Loops. They had the waffle maker, which I do love that. Uh, got that, and then milk, juice, coffee, and toast. So, and granola bars. Not the humongous selection in the world. Better than nothing, I suppose. I mean, I'm not going to complain about a free breakfast. Um, yeah, wasn't my favorite stay. I'll put it that way. I've stayed in Baymonts, and I've stayed in some nice ones. They're not top of luxury type of hotels. If you want that, I can gladly get you those. Um, if you want something more economic, I can find you something more economic. I'm more on the economic side, and sometimes you do get what you paid for. But one of the best things that I'll say, and I've never experienced this. I'm glad I didn't experience it this time, but no bed bugs. If you've ever been in a hotel and got bed bugs, oh my gosh, horrible. Didn't get that, so good. All right. So checked in, ended up getting in and showering. try to take a little bit of a nap if I could because it was a long drive and I knew I still had a night game ahead of me and to drive down there. Not that it was far, it was only about maybe a 20 to 30-minute drive. So I rested up a little bit, put on the TV, watched some college football, and ended up getting. Did I get something to eat? No, no. I thought about it. I thought about getting something to eat on the way to the game, and I even they had some. I mean, they had a lot of stuff in the area and stuff that we don't have up here. I went through a drive-through called Zaxby's, which is I think is a chicken joint, and I was looking at the menu. I felt bad for the person waiting on me. I'm like, I'm just not that hungry. Surprisingly, it was around dinner time, but I guess from all the snacks I had brought with me, I guess I was all right. I ended up was like, okay, I'm all right. So I had my snack bag with me just in case. So I left there, headed down to the game, and I was very pleasantly surprised that I went in there, and usually you're going to hit some kind of game day traffic. Didn't really hit that, which was really cool. There was a little bit of traffic. I think I parked probably about a mile away from the stadium. Now I'm familiar with Knoxville. Didn't know anything about it, didn't know much about it, never been there before in my life. So, you know, parking at a college game can be kind of difficult in a way, especially if you're not familiar with the area. I mean, they'll have parking around the stadium, but usually it's like for permits or season ticket holders that have permits or whatever. And then you got a bunch of like dorms and you got a bunch of residential places and stuff like that. So not necessarily other parking lots. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It kind of varies. And if you're familiar with it, cool. It can be a pleasant experience. But if you're unfamiliar with it, then it's like I don't know. So I was driving around, couldn't really find it. Eventually saw a parking garage, and I was like, all right, let me just go in here so I can start walking the game. I'm about a mile away from the stadium, and I'm not being a matter of expression. It's not hyperbolic. I was literally on my GPS. It's showing a mile away. I'm like, all right, I can walk a mile. I can walk. So I park in there. And I was like, oh man, this is a little bit more than I was hoping to pay for parking. But whatever. You know, it is what it is. So let me just park it. Interesting enough, they didn't take the money. It was the parking was $60. Maybe you think that's expensive. Maybe you think that's reasonable. I don't know. Everyone's different. I'm like, I'd rather not pay that much, but whatever. Um, I'm here. I'm pulling out $60 to hand to the guy. Nope, he gives me this little card that you scan a QR code. Once you get your parking spot, you put in your information, and then it'll like take a snapshot of your license plate as you go in, and then timestamp it as you come out, and I guess that bills you after that. First time ever doing that. Hopefully that all works out. I put in my information, the car's information, my credit card information. Hopefully that works out. If not, well then I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so I park and from there I start walking. It's not like I could see the stadium. One thing about Knoxville, and I will say that I was very surprised about this, is that it's not like some small town and the stadium's not out in the middle of nowhere, which I don't know why, but that's what I expected. Um, for instance, like the stadium at Penn State, if you ever go to Happy Valley, um, their stadium is like in the middle of nowhere, right out in the country somewhere. You know, or a lot of college towns, it's the stadium, the or the college campus is the town, and there's not. This was like being inside a city. Like there's tall buildings. I don't say skyscrapers, but there's tall buildings. You feel like you're going downtown into a downtown metropolis city. Um, so I couldn't necessarily see the stadium. I could see the lights, and obviously the GPS was showing me where to go towards it, but I couldn't quite see it. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna have to. I'm gonna follow these people. Here's a bunch of people with Tennessee Volunteer shirts on. I'm gonna follow them and probably get to the right area. And I go and I'm walking, and sure enough, they're going, in the right area. They're going in the right direction. I'm walking through, and it's actually really pretty. We go by a convention center. At one point, I went through like a park. There's a nice like little park next to the city. Kind of reminded me of being in New York, in all honesty. I even took a couple pictures. They had a nice like little waterfall type area and some waters that was I could see like a I don't know, it wasn't necessarily a water tower, but it just kind of reminded me of a water tower, a big ball and you know uh, stem. I don't know what you want to call it exactly. The tower, whatever. Anyways, but I thought it was kind of pretty. I took a couple of pictures of that. Even though that's not part of the hobby, usually the hobby is the stadium. But if there's some nice things that I think are pretty or scenic, I might take pictures of it and incorporate it. So I was very pleasantly surprised with how nice Knoxville was, the city of it. And I'm sure being in Knoxville and not just going to a game, but enjoying the city of Knoxville itself is probably a nice experience. Not that I was doing that, but I'm sure it is. Anyways, I'm following people, and sure enough, eventually I get to the stadium. I'm walking. I kind of walk to the side of it, but it's kind of covered by like trees and other kind of buildings, homes, whatever it was. Eventually, though, as I pull around, or I'm walking around, I then it comes into sight. I'm like, oh, this is nice, and what I'm used to with Michigan, um, and Michigan I think is a little bit unique with this, where you're walking ground level and you go into it. It from the outside, if you didn't have the press boxes before the press boxes came, it kind of almost looked like just a high school stadium because it goes deep inside of a bowl and the ground level is kind of up here. So once you get into it, then you see the huge thing. But it's not like the ground level is at the bottom of the bowl; it's more at the top. Um, not all stadiums are like that, and Tennessee was not like that either. I walk around, I'm on ground level, and here's this big, tall, massive stadium, which I found very impressive. Tennessee is one of the few stadiums that do hold 100,000 people, and you know what? I'm going to look this up real quick. Biggest college football stadium. I mean, I know Michigan's number one with what they hold. Let me see here. Um, Tennessee is number six, according to this website, at 101,950. I knew it was over 100,000. I just didn't know how many exactly it was. Um, okay, cool. So I knew that this was going to be a lot of people, and it's going to be tight going in. It's going to be tight going out. It's going to be tight inside the stadium. I know what 100,000 fans feels like. I see it every year. I'm a part of it every year. I know what it's like. But the stadiums I go see don't always have that, right? Stanford definitely didn't have 100,000 people. Cal, maybe in the 50s, that was this year. What did I see last year? Who did I see last year? Whatever it was. But it would, according to this list, let me see, who has 100,000? Penn State, that's been some years since I've seen them. Ohio State, been some years. Texas A&M, been some years since I've seen them. Texas, yeah. So the ones that LSU and Bam, I haven't seen yet. So the ones that do have over 100,000, it's been a while since I've been to those. Um, that means that just Michigan. This is going to be my first time being around 100,000 in a long time as a fan, not as a worker, as a fan. It's a little different as a worker because you know the ins and outs of the stadium, where to go, where not to go, where being shuttled in. That's all kind of a part of it, part of helping with that. This, I'm completely on my own. I don't know anything about the city. I don't know anything about the stadium, the area, the ins and outs of it, nothing. Okay, so I get there. I see it, big, massive, and I like it. This is what I mean, I love stadiums. I love the looks of them, the designs of them. They're all different. This one, a little unique in a way of like, on the one side, it has the word Vols on it. On the other side, it doesn't. And, very tall. To get around to the other side, where I could see the word Vols on one of the corners, I didn't see where it said Neyland Stadium, which is the name of the stadium. I asked one of the security guys there, or the event staff that was outside. He mentioned around the other side, but you had to walk through like a parking structure that's connected to that, and it's one of the end zones. You have to walk up and around to get to that area. I'm like, all right. It was funny as I was walking and found some people. I wasn't with anybody, so I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just I'm just walking. I'm just following. But I could overhear conversations of other people. One guy was talking to his girl, saying, yeah, he had season tickets. He had described it as it's always an adventure trying to get into the stadium. Now, again, first time being there, I don't know what that's about. And what once one person might consider an adventure, another person might consider easy, and vice versa. I'm like, all right, it's an adventure according to him. Come to find out, it definitely is an adventure to try to get into the stadium. Not that it was like overly super complicated, but you know, I was a little tired by the time I got to my seat. I'll put it that way. Part of it's on me though, because I did want to take a picture of the sign because I always like to take a picture of the sign if there is one, if I can. So I go up 3, 4 stories on this little parking structure that's connected to the stadium, and there's a lot of tailgating and partying going on. Definitely, you could tell that I wasn't far from the student area. Not that I knew it, but you could kind of tell. Sure enough, the student area was around there. I'll get to that later. I go up, walk through the parties, walk to the end of this parking structure where I can turn around, take a picture of it. I get to see the stadium at a different angle, and I get to see the sign, and I even take a close up of that sign. Cool, got my outside shots that I wanted. Time to head in. Where do I head in? So I'm going through people and tailgating. Really was tempted to take some cookies or cupcakes or a hot dog from somebody's thing. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to steal someone's food, even if it did look tasty. Some people were watching TV. Again, I've never tailgated. It's hundreds of games that I've been to. I've never experienced that to that degree. Maybe one day, who knows? But I could see where like people were going down and around to get into the stadium. I'm like, all right, let me follow there. So I go there, walk down, and there's a guy with a bullhorn saying students, on one side, non-students on the other side. And the students were packed. Other side, hardly anyone. I'm like, yes, all right, I get to go with the clear one. Walking there, a handful of people. Eventually did stop in line. We had to go through like a metal detector type of thing. I didn't know if we had to take stuff out of our pockets. I actually had a little granola bar in my pocket just in case I got hungry. I didn't know if I was going to have to bring that out. They'd be like, no, you can't have that in here. But they never did. I just walked through nice and easy. Didn't have to take anything out of my pockets, keys, wallet, anything, which is nice. Just walked on through. So I'm not exactly sure what they were looking for, but what was the purpose of walking through that thing? Regardless, walked through it. Easy peasy. And then getting up there wasn't a ton of people in line to for the ticket takers. Not even taking tickets. It's just your phone. Everything's on your phone. And they're even going to make an announcement. We do not accept paper tickets anymore. You can't get in the stadium with paper tickets, which is so annoying to me because I like to have that physical ticket because I have a little photo album type of thing that I put my tickets in. I have to print them out at CVS now in order to fill up this thing. Again, I'm going off on another rant. Get up there. Not many people. Buzz in. I asked her where to go. She tells me where to go. So I go there. I get out there. And I'm like, all right. So my sections was G, and I'm in G. Like, all right. But I'm like, no, this isn't me. I'm GG. I'm more at the top. And as I come out, I'm like, this is pretty close to the field. So I asked the guy, how do you get up there? You have to walk up these stairs. You're going to make it right at the corridor. You're going to see the ramp that goes up to the upper level, and from there you get to it. Okay. This is where the adventure comes into play now. Walk up the stairs. It's a good thing. Not that I'm like some health nut or, this uh, perfection of fitness type of guy. I'm not that at all, but I'm still active. I can still move about, and I'm not too lazy or lethargic or anything. So I can do all this, but it's like I said, it's definitely an adventure. It's a hike. By the time I got to my seat, I was a little tired. I walking up the stairs, and then from there walking up the ramp too. Use the bathroom on the way. And let me tell you, this is an old time stadium. I mean, old school stadium. You're peeing in an open trough, kind of. That type of stadium. I didn't do that. I just no. No, that's not for me. Um, yeah, but that's the type of stadium that it is. It's just old school. You can tell this has been around a long time, which is not. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just what it is. The Tennessee Volunteers have been around a while. Their stadium's been around a while. How long? I don't know. I have to look that up to see when Neyland Stadium came around, which I'm not going to do right now. I'll do that another time. Anyways, walk upstairs, and then it's from there. It's very narrow to get through. Like around the corridors to get to your section. It's very narrow, and 100,000 people are in the stadium, so it's cramped. Again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just reminds you of it's old school, and which I kind of like it in a way, uh, nostalgia. And even though I've never been there, but just this is what it was like way back when. I guess I can appreciate history, even though I'm not a history buff or major fan of history. Like I can appreciate history and stuff that goes back a ways. There was all kinds of different concessions, but they all had the same thing. It was popcorn, pretzel, maybe some candy, nacho. It was that type of concession food. And I was thinking, I know I haven't eaten. I figured maybe earlier when I passed on Zaxby's, I thought maybe I could get something at the game. And I was looking. I was like, I don't know if I feel like having peanuts or pop or a pretzel for dinner. That's not dinner to me. But right in my section, right when I get to my section, there's like nachos that had more stuff on it, like beef nachos or something like that. I'm like, oh, okay, I got some nachos here. All right, I got a different option here. Maybe I'll have that for dinner. But again, I wasn't overly hungry at the moment. I thought maybe a little bit later on. I got there early enough, probably about a by the time I got to my seat, I think there was still about an hour left before kickoff. So definitely got there early, which I do like to do. I like to be there for kickoff at all possible. I don't like coming in late to a game. And I don't like leaving early for a game either. Like I bought a ticket for the game. I want to be there for the game, the entire game, start to finish. And especially if I can take either a picture or video of at the start of it. Pre-game stuff can be pretty cool to see. That was still a little ways away. They were doing their warm-ups. And I used to really love watching warm-ups. Thought that was cool. I think I've seen this so much now that I've lost excitement for it. Yeah, I guess so. But I ended up going to the very top, and they had a nice view. Not well, my seat was not quite at the top. It was still up a ways, but it wasn't quite at the top. I did eventually go up to the top, sit up there for a while during some of the pregame stuff that they did. The pregame stuff was kind of cool. Part of their pregame, they had their marching band that came out. It's college football. A lot of college football teams have marching band. I think all of them do. And within their, and every team's going to be something different. I haven't seen all of them because sometimes I do come in later at a game or whatever. But this one, part of it was their band spells out the word Vols, which is obviously short for volunteers, VOLS. That's what's also like on the end zone that on each corner they have that's with the scoreboard that's in between those. They spell it out in one of their chants. They spell it out a few times. They kind of go fast and then say "Go Vols, go!" Which again, I'm not a volunteer fan. I was a Tennessee Volunteer fan for one night. Yesterday night was it. But other than that, I'm not. So I don't know. Every team's got their own chants and they got their own little traditions that they do. I won't say rituals, but whatever the word you want to, whatever word you can think of, that they're doing all the time. And it's one of the things I do love about college football is all that stuff. So theirs is that, and it was, and they got a song called Rocky Top, which they played quite a few times, even before the game started. The band was down there, and the maestro, like right where I was at. If I looked directly down, there was the student section and the band in the corner of the end zone. I could see it straight down from me, and they played that Rocky Top song a few times. And even though I'm not a Tennessee fan, I gotta admit, it's kind of a catchy little song. They got this mascot. I don't know what the name is. I forget the name of the mascot. But it's a dog. I don't know if it's a beagle or I don't know what kind of dog it's supposed to be, but it's a It's a dog, and that's their mascot. Kind of a cute little mascot, and it's kind of a catchy little song too. I heard that multiple times before the game even began. Back to the band. So the marching band, they spell out Vols. That was part of it. And then eventually they make a T, obviously for Tennessee. And then the team comes running out through that T. That's part of their pregame uh, show, ritual, whatever you want to call it. And they have a lot of fireworks that get shot off on both sidelines. Excuse me. I get to talking. I need some water or something. My throat gets dry or whatever. Yeah, so there was a lot of fireworks that got shot off pregame, and even during the game or after the game too, when they scored or at the end of the game. Um, that which that was cool. It's cool to have that. Two big press boxes on each side, and that was nice too. So I mean, it's a big stadium, and when I walked in there and I looked up, I was like, yeah, this is impressive looking stadium. I like what I see here. And when I went up there, as I'm watching it, I can appreciate a big stadium like that. One thing very unique, never had this done before, or seen this happen before, but they said a prayer before they sung the national anthem. I've never seen that before. Every game that I've ever been to, they've sung the national anthem. But this is the first and only time I've ever heard someone say a prayer before they sang the national anthem. Totally unique in that sense. Um, someone had mentioned about if they were going to do a flyover. Sometimes they do flyovers during the national anthem, right at the end of it. I don't recall seeing it. It was kind of nighttime too, so I don't know if I'm sure you could still see the planes if they flew by, but there wasn't any that I had noticed. So that was pregame. But before the game started, I found my seat. At least I thought it was my seat. It's kind of interesting. I sat down next to a guy, between a guy and a group of young guys. And I think I said something to him as I sat down, like, oh, I guess I'm next to you today. Didn't say anything. He was just eating his hot dog, didn't say a word to me. All right, whatever. Later on, eventually, one of the guys, and I felt like I was getting it was tight in there, right? Again, 100,000 people. It's one of those young guys I was next to, he was heading out. So I figured, well, I'll head out too, since he's heading out. And I went down. I was thinking about getting nachos. I went down there and I was like, still not quite in the mood for them yet. I'm still not too hungry. So I stood there for a little bit before I came back in. I started hearing the roar of the crowd. I guess they were starting their pregame stuff. So I went back and went out. And then when I came back, I went all the way up to the top. That's when I went up there. I was up there for the rest of the pregame stuff. As the game was starting, I was starting to head back to my seat. By that time, more people were there, and that guy that was eating the hot dog didn't say anything to me. He's like, you're in the wrong area. You're in the wrong section or row or something like that. I was like, really? And I'm looking at my, row 28, where my seat was. I see it right there. And like, nope. Like, I think he said it was behind us. And I was like, okay. And I look behind, and every seat is taken. Like, I don't think so, but I'm kind of a peaceful guy. I wasn't going to sit there and argue with the dude. So I headed back. I felt bad because I kept crossing over. And so I just stood at the end of the aisle on the stairs, and there's people all around. I mean, it's super crowded. And they're all trying to find their seats, and everything. So I'm kind of crowding the guy. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to crowd you. I don't know where to go. Like I'm looking, I see it. It looks like this says row 28 right here, but maybe and everyone else is confirming, yeah, this is row 28. Says it here on the stair, and the row head, we're row 27 behind you. We're row 29. Like, this is row 28. I know how to read a seat. I've been to hundreds of games. I'm an usher. If I didn't know how to read a ticket, be something wrong here, right? But whatever. Anyways, time goes on. There's still people crowding. I can't really move anywhere, and I don't know where I'm supposed to be sitting here. This guy's telling me no, not like he's an usher or anyone in charge, but he's just making a stink about it. After a few minutes or so, though, he starts walking out. He's holding one of his like rented chairs that he has, like with the seat back that people can rent, put them on their benches, and he leaves. and looking around, the group of young guys. I forgot what they said. There was a group of young guys. There was another single individual, my seat, and then two young girls who went to college in Tennessee. And I go over there and uh, I asked about it. And they're like, "Yeah, he must have been in the wrong area." I was like, "Yeah, I could have swore this was my seat. This is where I am. I could have swore." Whatever. Anyways, never heard or saw from him again. He was gone, and he was out of my life. I didn't have to worry about him. At one point, the girl that was sitting next to me, they heard them two were talking amongst themselves. I didn't really have a big conversation with them at any point. But at one point, she asked it about the guy. I was like, I don't know. He left. I guess he must have found where he was sitting. She's like, I feel bad. You know, he was kind of older, which I didn't think he was that much older, but he seemed like he was like maybe in his upper 40s to 50s or something like that. But I just turned 40. So to me, that's not that much older. He's older than me, but didn't seem like. But to someone who's in college, you know, that's an older guy that, she's like worried about, which I actually thought that was very commendable. Sometimes young people are focused on their phones or on selfies or whatever. They're not really focused, they don't really care about other people. Um, it was nice to see a young person be concerned about an older person. I'll put it that way. And I thought that was very commendable. Like I said, I didn't get a big conversation with them, but they were nice enough, at least for regard to that. The single guy that was sitting next to me, though, he was from New York, and he uh, became a volunteer fan, Tennessee Volunteers fan, like 15 years ago, through like his boss, like Florida, and he was watching it with them, and the boss was like, "Yeah, don't like Tennessee, right? Kind of thing." And he kind of had that mentality of like, someone tells you don't do something, you're gonna do it, that kind of thing. So he ended up watching them, starting to like them, and he just, I guess, he fell in love with the team. And he'll come in. From my understanding of it, he'll come in from New York, catch the games. I think he had season tickets at one point. Really nice guy. I got to talk with him a lot throughout the game. Really enjoyed his company. Very nice. Especially since I was by myself, didn't have anyone, and um, it was cool to have someone to chat with, and didn't really. I don't know if I mean, I could have chatted with the college girls, but that would have been, I don't know, a little awkward, I guess, So it was nice to have another guy to talk football with and stuff. All right, so now to the game. I've told you experience up until the game. Already 42 minutes into this podcast, I haven't even mentioned the game. Night game, so nice atmosphere. A night game can be a very nice atmosphere with the lights. They had a lot of nice light shows. They had, like those spotlights that you'd see like at like movie theaters for a coming attraction that are shining up in the air. Well, they didn't have that, but they had spotlights that were going around the audience, like big spotlights, and it was just kind of cool with that, and other light shows too. So night game, and I remember listening to a podcast once, and and for a team that's got to go to a big stadium away at night, it's like swimming in the ocean. During the day, it's cool. You might even be willing to go in there. It's not as intimidating, but if you go into the ocean at night, it is just so much more scarier, right? And that can be kind of how it is at going to a big stadium at night. It already can be in a cool atmosphere, intimidating atmosphere, but put it at night, that backdrop, it makes it even more intimidating and scary. I always thought that was a cool analogy. And I think Neyland Stadium was no different. Definitely a big stadium that can be impressive, that can be intimidating to be. And of course, I've never been on a team to know what it's like to go on the road and be a road person, a road team on the road. Yeah, I've never been in that position. I can imagine that there's probably can be some nerves to it or some intimidation to it, depending on where you're going. I don't know, maybe not. But anyways, so Tennessee is actually doing very well this year up until this point. Only one loss so far to Arkansas, ranked seventh in the nation coming into the game. Mississippi State was not doing very well. And so you think this probably wouldn't be like a close game, a tight game, or anything like that. But it ended up being closer than anticipating for the first half. Tennessee had their chances, but whether it was like a turnover in the red zone or got stopped on fourth down, whatever, what could have been like a maybe a 28-7 game was only like 14-7 at one point late in the second quarter. Um, Mississippi State had the ability to get some chunk plays when it came to the running game, which was actually kind of impressive. But their rushing stats wasn't like humongous, which was interesting. Every time I looked, I'm like, oh, that's all they have. But I'd see them get these big, 10, 12, 15-yard runs. I'm like, how did they not have more? Anyways, but before the half ended, Tennessee kicked a field goal. Mississippi State went you know, got the ball back with only, less than a minute to go and passed, got incomplete a couple times, which, stops the clock. And then, but anyways, Tennessee got the ball back with not too long to go, with a few seconds left, was able to get in position and kick another field goal. So they ended up being up 20-7 at halftime. Felt like they could have been up more, but they still were up by 2 scores. And third quarter came around, kicked another field goal. And I'm thinking, this is just going to be death by 1,000 paper cuts. This guy's kicked like 3 or 4 field goals, which I guess the game before, according to the guy that I was sitting next to, um, obviously he's being a Tennessee Volunteer fan, he knows more about their season. I know some stuff, but I don't follow them. I guess I think the week before the guy missed like 3 field goals, so he was kind of worried about the guy's confidence. But he ended up kicking 4 field goals in the game and making all 4 of them. And again, I was just thinking like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Third quarter though, they did tack on a couple touchdowns. They had I want to say 4 touchdowns in the game, and I'm kind of like, if I can get a video of a touchdown, I will. And what I'll do is once a team gets like in the red zone or get close to the end zone, I'll take out my phone and I'll film a play. If they score, awesome. If they don't, delete it, try again the next play, and just keep doing it. Hopefully they score a touchdown. Tennessee never scored in the red zone. Every time they got close, they either turned it over on downs, they either kicked a field goal, they couldn't punch it in. All 4 of their touchdowns were like these big bomb plays that I didn't have time to get out the phone. Like the shortest one was 33 yards. They had a 33-yard run. Their last touchdown was a 33-yard run. I didn't have my camera out when they're at the 33-yard line. I'm waiting for them to get closer inside the 20. They had a 33-yard run. They had a 34-yard pass. That was like, I think even on a fourth down, that was like their first touchdown. And then they had a 30. What else did they have? They had a 33-yard run, and they had a 34-yard pass. Maybe they only score 3 touchdowns? I'm trying to look at the box score now. And a 73-yard pass. Yeah, that was it. The rest were field goals. The rest were field goals. Yeah, again, death by 1,000 cuts. Okay, so they had 3 touchdowns, and all of them were 30 plus yards. Like, I don't have my camera out for that. They ended up winning. If you couldn't tell, they did win the game. They won 33-14. Mississippi State did score another touchdown in the third quarter to kind of get it closer to 23-14. But Tennessee pulled away with another 10 points to make it, 33-14. No surprise there. They're a better team. Now, the guy I was talking with, he was not, I mean, even though they only have 1 loss, I wasn't overly impressed by some of the stuff that they had, that they have going on with their team. If like, felt like they could use their tight ends a little bit more, some of their running defense, and whatever else he mentioned. There was quite a few things, and I'm like, okay. I don't follow Tennessee that closely to know their strengths and weaknesses. I see their scores, I'll see their records, see some highlights. At the moment, they've only got 1 loss with a few games to go, so they definitely got a good chance to get into the SEC title game and possibly even win the SEC. And I'd asked him too, because again, I don't follow him closely, but I couldn't recall That's why I asked him. I was like, hey, listen, I'm just curious. There's no swarm with this question. When was the last time Tennessee won a title? He's like, they've been to the SEC title game a couple times but lost. But so I think the last time was like '98. It's like '98. Wow, like, and I remember that I was in high school in '98. I remember when they won the national championship. It was the year after Michigan with Peyton Manning. Who was there? It was homecoming. This was homecoming. I don't very rare. I think I can't remember a time a homecoming was last game of the season, last home game of the season. I think the remaining games are on the road. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, um, yeah, Peyton Manning was there, and he was on that team that won it. And I was like, yeah, because I mean, Alabama's had such a big dynasty under Nick Saban. They've won so many. Georgia has won, a few, and I can't remember who else. Maybe Florida had some. LSU, So yeah, so Tennessee hasn't won it, and it's impressive. They have such a big fan base. I mean, it's 100,000 plus in the stadium, and it's not like it's half empty. It's full. The people in Tennessee love their Tennessee Volunteers. I mean, they have within Tennessee, kind of similar to. I feel like it's similar to Ohio in a way, because Ohio State is the only big school. I guess Cincinnati would be the next biggest, but other than that, you got like MAC teams. But even Cincinnati does. I don't think of them. They've only just recently gotten to a power conference. They're not up to Ohio State's level. Michigan has also Michigan State, and you go down the line, right? Washington and Washington State, Texas is Texas A&M, whatever. You got a bunch like that, right? So Tennessee has Vanderbilt, but I think Vanderbilt isn't as popular in the state of Tennessee compared to Tennessee Volunteers. He was even telling me that when Tennessee goes to play Vanderbilt, it's almost like another home game for them. I say all that because it's such a passionate fan base. They're passionate. They love their football. They're a big fan base, and so they haven't won a title in many years. And being that Michigan, up until the last few years, 2021 through 2023, they hadn't won a Big Ten in a while, nor beaten Ohio State in a while. They were same thing, right? Humongous stadium, humongous fan base, very passionate, love the team, love the university, but they weren't winning the championships. So I couldn't think back until the last time I thought of it, and I asked him out of curiosity, when was that? He would know more than I would. And sure enough, '98. It's like, wow, it's been a long time. They have a chance this year. We'll see what happens as time goes on. And I told him, for the sake of Tennessee and the fans, well, I hope they win the SEC. I was like, and he one of the things he said he liked was the fan base in the SEC. He thought they were a nice fan base. And he's from New York. He's born and raised in New York. So it's not like he's got necessarily Southern ties, from what I could tell. He didn't mention any family or friends that lived in the South. Um, and so he appreciated the fan base down, and they seem nice. I was wearing this. This is the closest thing I had to a Tennessee Volunteer. It's Volunteer Energy, which I think was kind of from around that area or whatever. Um, so I mean, I kind of blended in. I didn't have Mississippi State stuff on, but even the people that were from Mississippi State, it didn't look like they were getting any problems or issues from the fan base. So maybe they had that Southern hospitality down there too, which is funny. Tennessee. I mean, I know I guess they're the South. Like Kentucky, Tennessee, they're considered the South. I think of South, I think of Florida, Texas, you know, Carolinas. Because I feel like they're kind of in the middle. They're not necessarily up top north like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. They're not south like Florida and Alabama. They're kind of in the middle. But I guess they must think of themselves as the South. I mean, I hear a lot of accents. I hear a lot of Southern accents. I know each of the Southern states has like a different Southern accent to them, a different type of draw. Um, I got theirs. I heard those a lot. I saw a lot of women wearing cowboy boots. A lot of women wearing cowboy boots. So I mean, I guess yeah, it is the South. So they were nice enough people. Definitely nice enough people, nice enough fan base, big passionate fan base, and nice from what I could tell. You know, even at night walking back to the car. Oh boy, there's another story right there. But very dark, and I saw like women walking alone, seemed to be fine. It didn't seem like there was a lot of issues or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure like any city, there's probably some areas you got to be careful about or avoid. But for the most part, it seemed like a nice, relatively safe area, city, fan base, whatnot. Final score 33 14, right? Mississippi State loses that, and they're not very great. But Tennessee doing well. We'll see if they can continue on and win a championship. One of the things that's kind of cool about their stadium, they got their team colors, which is like orange and white. To me, it kind of reminds me of like creamsicle a little bit. Maybe not quite the same hue. It's funny the names that colleges give their their colors. Like Texas is burnt orange, Michigan is maize and blue. Right? It's kind of funny they got these names for them. I don't know what Tennessee's are. To me, it's orange and white. I'm a guy. We just thinking just those type of colors, right? Anyways, but they have those colors on their end zone in like a checkered pattern, which is kind of unique. Um, I don't see checkered pattern. I don't know if a checkered pattern is part of anything. If there's some meaning behind that, if that's part of a tradition, if there's something historic about that, I don't know. There could be a story behind that. If there is, I don't know it, but they have it, and they have it on both of their end zone, like this checker pattern, orange and white checkers. So that's a little unique to their stadium. Thought that was kind of cool. And again, they score. I see their mascot, their dog out there, the guy waving the flag. So that's kind of cool. And then when I was coming back out of the stadium, I'm walking, and I had a vision in my mind of where I was trying to go, trying to retrace my steps. Now it's darker. When I came to, it was still a little bit light out, getting to dusk. Now it's dark. Now it's like literally dark. I'm walking, and I'm thinking I have an idea where to go. I look back, I see the stadium, and it's like, oh, okay, here's another nice view of the stadium. So I start taking a couple pictures of that. I'm walking towards where I think I'm supposed to be going, and I'm trying to follow myself on the map too, and it kind of shows where I'm parked. And I'm looking, I'm like, why am I not getting closer? I'm walking, I'm walking, I'm walking. I have not seen anything familiar. I have not seen myself move any closer on the map. So I'm like, what is going on here? So I kind of refresh it, and come to find out, I'm walking in the complete opposite direction. Like, oh, you got to be kidding me with this. And I'm already thinking in my mind, it's already kind of late. By the time I get to the car, by the time I get out of here, get back to the hotel, try to fall asleep, I'm trying to get up and leave the next morning early so I can get home at a reasonable time. I'm like, oh, great. So I'm about half a mile in the other direction. So I'm like a mile away from the car. So I got to start walking all the way back. And I put in my GPS the name of, I think, the parking garage that I was in. I'm like, oh man, this is a mile the other way. I start heading back. It starts raining. Like, oh goodness, with this. And I'm kind of like annoyed with myself and whatever. And I'm walking, walking, walking. So again, I can walk a mile. This is about a 20 to 30-minute walk the other way. I'm like, oh great, this is just going to add more time to it. But I can walk. I have that ability, and I say that not like, yes, I have the ability to walk. I'm not paraplegic or something like that. But I mean, I have the physical stamina and energy to walk a lot. A good amount of distance. It's not going to kill me. I have that ability to do that and be fine. Not that I necessarily want to do it after a long day of driving for 8 hours and going to a game and all that, but I have to at this point. So I start walking back, go through a park, which was actually kind of nice, dark. It was lit up, but again, it was safe, and there's cops around too. And eventually, when I finally come out of that park, I finally see that water tower looking thing. I'm like, oh, there it is. That's what I was looking. What I was. That was my landmark that I was looking for that I couldn't find later on. And I was like, oh, there it is. Cool. And I walked by the where I took pictures earlier of the water and everything. I'm like, all right, now I know where I'm at. Head over there, finally get to the car. So tired. And it looks like, hey, no one's around here. They must have all left already. So I start leaving. Couldn't even get out of the parking garage after I went down a couple floors. There's traffic. I'm like, oh man. And just bumper to bumper, hardly moving at all. Like, oh, great. It took me a good 20, 30 minutes to get out of there, get into the road, and then bumper to bumper, slow traffic to get around. Like, oh man, I didn't even experience this coming into the game. Now I'm getting it going out. After a long, after I would say, I would, half hour ish worth of traffic to get out. I get on the highway, clear, nobody. Super easy to get, once I got out on the road, on the highway, I think it was 275, clear sailing after that. And by this time, it's past midnight. I want to say by the time I get back to the hotel, we're looking at around 12, 12:30ish. And again, I hadn't eaten dinner yet. And I was like, I know there's a bunch of stuff around, but I mean, it's kind of late. Is anything going to be open? Do I want to eat this late? I want to get up early tomorrow and head on out. Should I eat late? Oh, why not? So I go. And and surprisingly, there was some places still open. Wendy's was open, and I think Taco Bell was open late. And there was this other one called Crystal, which I had heard of before, but I don't think I've ever eaten there. And so I was like, well, I'll give Crystal a try. Again, something that's a little different. And they kind of remind me of like a White Castle, little tiny slider type of things. And I think you could pick five for however bucks, $9. You could pick five things. I got a couple of the sliders, a little mini chili dog, a little mini apple pie or something like that, and little tater tots. At that point I was kind of, even though I had my snack bag and I had a little granola bar with me that I ate, but I wanted an actual meal, not just snacks. So I got that and came back to the hotel, ate dinner, ate there, watched some college football. There's still some college football going on at that point. One thing about college football, from like noon to midnight, you can watch it all day long. And ate that and had no problem going to sleep. Got up in the morning, probably around 6 ish, and breakfast was at 6:30. I think I went back to. I got up and then I think I went back to sleep for a little bit. Woke up and kind of started getting ready a little bit. Went down, had the little breakfast that they had there. Again, it wasn't like a ton of options, but free food. Not gonna complain too much. Went back, brushed my teeth, finished packing, and left. On the way back, rained quite a bit. Stopped for gas a couple times, and stopped for lunch at where did I stop? There was this place called Chester's. It was a chicken place. It was in Ohio. It was sandwiched between a Love's and a Hardee's, which I was thinking of Hardee's because we used to have a Hardee's here and left. But the Chester's had like this bourbon chicken that looked kind of good. And they also had this honey parmesan or something like that looked kind of good. So I got like a combo. I had both of those and had some mac and cheese, which was delicious. Came with a biscuit, and I didn't get the biscuit. I forgot about that. And I got like these little apple pie things with it, which those were really tasty. You had icing on it, but the chicken was kind of hot. not, I'm not good with spice, and it was not even. I'm sure to a normal person wouldn't even be that bad, but to me, I was like, this is a lot. So I went back in to Love's, grabbed a chocolate milk, came back out, drank that, ate some other stuff in my snack bag that kind of put the heat out. But that mac and cheese at Chester's was very good. And the chicken was good too. It just kind of burned my mouth because I'm not good with spice. and and then yeah, headed home. What for, like I said, about a 7 to 8 hour drive if you include the stops, which I was okay with. And as soon as I got here, talked with Selena for a little bit, and I was like, I want to do this podcast while everything's fresh in my mind. And I'm glad I did it. Again, no notes. I am just going off the cuff, off my memory, and just going through everything that I can recall. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it came across okay, and hopefully I did it justice for you guys, so that this lasted over an hour, and hopefully everything sounded good and you enjoyed it. As always, if you do want to go see Tennessee, I will definitely recommend it. It is a nice atmosphere. It is a nice stadium to go see. Knoxville looks like a nice city. I will be more than happy to help you with that if you want to go catch a game or take a tour of the campus. If that's what your purpose. I can't set up a tour, but whatever. There's whatever reason you want to go out there, or I'll be more than happy to do it. Feel free to reach out to me. Again, jay.paradise.travels@gmail.com is my email. You can correspond to me that way, or you can look me up on Instagram or Facebook at Jay's Paradise Travel. Again, no apostrophe in that, just JAYS, Jay's Paradise Travels. You can reach out to me there. I do like to post some pictures on that as well. I don't, get a gazillion pictures. I like to post them flash them here on the the podcast as well. But you might not be watching the podcast. You might just be listening to it, so you don't get to see the pictures. So you can see some of them on there if that's something you like to do. And if you do like this podcast, I do ask that you like it, rate it, subscribe to it, share it with others, all those good things that we podcasters need in order to keep our podcast going. And for me, especially since it's a business, I want to try to continue to build up my travel agency business. Love to have your business too. This is all part of it. And this was all part of my experience. That's why I talked about the road trip, the food. It was all my experience with the Tennessee Volunteers. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something from it. And thank you again for listening. I will talk to you guys another time. Take care. Bye bye.